The Real Estate Story with Adrian Butera.
Hi everybody, coming to you live, which I usually say our West Footscray studio, but no, far from that. I'm coming to you live from my daughter Florence's bedroom. We've moved all the equipment here recording today, and I'm once again excited and delighted to bring you an episode of The Real Estate Story. Today I've got two very special guests, Lisa and Lauren Garner, but before I introduce the ladies shortly, I've got a moment to tell you a quick story. So this story dates back a couple of years when my business, Compton Green, still are in fact one of the principal property managers for the state government. And this was the time when we were managing some real estate for Vic Roads. We managed 9 blocks of land on Ballarat Road in Footscray and West Footscray, and it continued all the way further west. And we were looking at how we could best manage this land. And it's managing land, what do? You don't receive any rent. You really can't do much else. You just mow the lawn, manage the fences, and that's really just about it. And of course, we were trying to work out how we could manage this land better. Now, it was very, very simple for me. I thought, well, if we could get people on the property, they would effectively manage the property for us. So I looked at some opportunities to put some low-cost housing, portable housing on the land. So I first asked Vic Roads to make sure that we could at least have the investigations, and we applied those investigations and then went and looked at some portable housing to put on the sites. Now, I will say this to you, to keep a long story short, one thing led to another, a meeting with council and a few executives at Vic Roads, and what that led to was we identified an appetite for everybody to progress these conversations. Now, I'm an estate agent. I manage a team, and really, we manage real estate. We sell real estate day in, day out. And on this particular year, I got particularly busy, and that was put on the back burner. Such an important task, such a great opportunity was put on the back burner. However, unbeknownst to me, Vic Roads didn't leave it alone. And a great collaboration with Launch Housing and some wonderful funding allowed, only in the last 12 months, some portable housing to be constructed on these sites. And in fact, the vast majority have been built and tenants have moved in. I'm once again delighted to see such a great community spirit by corporate government get together to provide this low-cost housing. Just another great story that we were a part of, and we were delighted to be involved. So I'm going to be back with our guests in just one moment.
Are you on the move with a smartphone in hand? Go to comptongreen.com.au and our mobile-friendly website will make it easy to find the latest listings for sale and rent in the Inner West.
Okay, so now it's my very special, and I'm honoured to welcome my guests. Here they are, Lisa and Lauren Garner. Welcome to you both, ladies.
Hello, thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure. Now, I know that you've listened to the podcast before, and I'm really pleased to have you on. Now, for those that are watching, and there's a handful of people watching I can see, for those that are watching, should we just tell everybody now that you're twins? Should we just tick that box?
In case they were wondering.
In case they were.
True.
Yeah, great. Look, thank you for coming along. Now, you're both got really cool and very special roles out there. You're both architects in design. So let's start with you, Lise. Tell us where you are, where have you studied, give us a quick insight.
Where I am. Right now I'm working at Feildwork Architects. I guess they're a relatively young-ish architecture firm in Collingwood. And I started working there because I was very interested in the multi-residential housing work that they were doing. But they've really diversified and are working on everything now. So there was a lot of office buildings. That's sort of all about to change, but they're also in sort of education sector. And so that's my day job. But on the side, I've kind of always been interested in affordable housing and housing in the suburbs of Melbourne. So yeah, that goes back to some of the projects I was working on before Feildwork.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's come back to that. Let's come back to that in a moment. Now, Lauren, give us a quick insight. Where are you at? What firm are you with?
I work for Kerstin Thompson Architects. Yeah, relatively medium-sized office run by Kerstin. She's quite senior and has a pretty extensive like portfolio, I guess across housing, but also moving into sort of cultural public buildings, and a lot of heritage and restoration of existing buildings, sort of a specialty of hers. I haven't been with her for too long, probably only about a few months. And before that, I was working for a Norwegian architecture office on Melbourne-based projects. So yeah.
Now that's a really interesting little segue there, because you're going to need to fill some gaps for me because I might get this wrong. But have you both studied overseas? You both have studied there and worked there as a result. Lauren, you spent a bit of time there.
I spent two semesters abroad, one in Barcelona,
Yeah.
where I studied at the university there, and one at the university that Lisa was doing her master's at. So Lisa did her master's in Berlin, and so we sort of, I guess, construed a plan for me to go over there, and I did a semester there. And then, yeah, shortly after that, when I did come back to Melbourne to work, I found work with a European architecture office. But I operated out of Melbourne entirely during that time.
Okay. So Lisa, you studied in Berlin, and you worked with a firm there as well. So give us some insights. What did that look like?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. It was actually about 7 years that I lived there. So even in that time, I worked for a few different offices, and I did exchange, and then I went on to do my master's. But I would say working there, was quite different. But I worked for different types of offices. So one of them was really small scale, doing some really experimental stuff in the city that was less about buildings and more about people in public space.
So tell me, so you both did, am I right? You both did your masters at Melbourne Uni? No.
We did our bachelor's at Melbourne Uni.
Bachelor's at Melbourne Uni.
Yep.
Okay.
And then masters, we kind of were off doing a number of different things.
Right.
I finished my masters at RMIT in Melbourne.
Yeah. Okay, so you study here in Melbourne, but then abroad, further study and for work for you as well. Tell me, before I talk about your awards and some of that social housing and community building, I want to just get a quick insight. Well, I mean, what's it like when you look at architecture, which is really, in many respects, geographical? You know, Australia has a certain series of styles and designs, and then you go over there and you get influenced differently. What gets created? I mean, your minds must be going berserk.
Totally. I think you come back home and you look at everything with a totally different lens, and you're just like, why? What you sort of like, why it doesn't have to be like this? It just is. We just like get stuck into a default mode, and so when you've seen how different things can be, you're just constantly challenging it.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting observations that we made, or that we were able to make, because I did my master's in Australia and Lisa did hers overseas, was that I think there's a bigger premise on sort of theoretical and conceptual ideas in Australia. We felt like a lot more about developing sort of critical thinking skills and artistic agency, and whereas I think what we noticed quite a lot in Europe particularly was that there seemed much more of an emphasis on sort of practical resolution and problem solving through sort of technical resolution and design, I guess, sort of in a more traditional way. So that sort of like balancing those two skills was something we tried to do when we worked together. It was nice to have that complementary sort of skill set, but I think it's definitely something we've been able to pick up on and make sure we're sort of able to pay attention to both sides of architecture.
Do you feel when you're overseas, whether you're studying or working, and you're dealing with projects with the history of some buildings, do you have this added weight on your shoulders to go, oh my God, this place is 500 years old, this place is 1,000 years old, whatever the case may be, and you're dealing with a restoration or extension, do they encourage your mindset to relax, or is that a huge obligation? Is that the word? Responsibility.
Huge, huge moral obligation. Yeah.
Talk the project I worked on in Berlin in existing buildings. Yeah, it's not. It's a. I mean, you're for those types of projects, you're always dealing with the city and heritage consultants. So there's like an extremely rigorous process of what needs to be done. And I guess you just approach everything with so much sensitivity, and
Yeah.
you can't just do what you want. It's very, very sensitive and it's very delicate. But you I think it's a nice way to be, because actually they are such beautiful older structures.
Amazing buildings. Yeah. Well, I've not seen Berlin, but I could imagine the pressures and the designs that you'd be dealing with. So let's stay overseas, because now both of you, if I got this right, you both went for this international award, both involved.
Yeah,
It was a competition. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. It was a couple of years ago. It was only a couple of years ago, but it was a really significant award that you nominated for in 2018. Now, I've written it down here. AECOMs, AECOM.
Yep.
What's that stand for? What's that?
Um,
You don't know. It's an acronym for
They're sort of they're one of the largest sort of consulting offices in the world, which is interesting because a lot of people don't know about them, and not so much here. But in America, they're quite sort of well known, and they also have sort of one of the largest in-house architectural consultancies in the world. I think something ridiculous like that.
So you guys nominated for the Urban Sustainability Award, and it was a competition, a global, international prize. And tell us about the project that you put forward.
Yeah, it came about. I saw this competition shortly after I'd done my thesis, and I was still in Berlin, and Lauren was still in Melbourne. But the thesis I'd done was because the overarching agenda for the award was about how to deal with population growth in cities. And so the project I'd done, my thesis, was looking at Melbourne's middle ring and how to deal with Melbourne's growing population, and kind of saw the suitability of that project to the award. And so we decided to submit that project and the idea as a team. And it was like a series of stages. So we got through to the first round, and then we actually had to develop the idea further, like with the team from AECOM. And then we eventually got shortlisted to the final four. And that was sort of more workshopping, but in Los Angeles. So it was a pretty cool experience to go to LA and then present the project in a 10-minute pitch.
So you did it together?
Yeah.
Yeah, went to LA together. So what's that like? A room of 10 people? What's it look like?
They made it a bit of a spectacle, actually.
Oh, did they?
It was downtown LA. They rented this big space and had, big catering sort of event, maybe 200 to 300 people or something like that, just
Wow.
so to bolster a bit of excitement. But really, we were just presenting the 10-minute pitch to the jury, and they were going to go away to, I guess, decide.
And how'd you go? So everybody listening is going, okay, so you've gone for this International Sustainability Award. So how did it all go?
We ended up. There was two first prizes, so we drew as winners.
So you won. That's how I read it. You won.
Yeah, we won. Yeah.
Fantastic. What an exciting time of your careers to win such an outstanding achievement, particularly when you look at the name of the project. And you've given me some brief insights over the years, but a sustainability award in your style and design, and architectural, standing out internationally. It must be one of those really beautiful things to have on the resume, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty great accomplishment, and I think also pretty exciting, given that it was based on Melbourne and a solution for Melbourne. So to have that sort of you know, have that sort of on the table, on the sort of in a global conversation was also kind of interesting and rewarding, I think.
So tell me, so you've got this international experience, you've won this amazing award, and you continue to put yourself in front of these opportunities. I want to pose a question to you both. Given your experiences, seeing what you're seeing in Melbourne right now, and when you look at Melbourne today, it's obviously in the midst of the pandemic, second wave, bit of a ghost town. Can you share with me your thoughts on what's going to happen with Melbourne real estate? You've probably asked me that before, but really, what's going to happen with Melbourne design 5 years' time? Give me some future insights that's going through your minds. Silence. Who's going to go first? Go on, Lauren. Tell us.
Well, I guess, oh gosh, I mean, it's a hard one, but I feel like the whole pandemic in general is sort of kickstarting or reinvigorating a lot of architectural sort of architects to sort of start thinking about new ways to design, or I guess find the new opportunities or creative sort of scenarios within which we can, you know, come up with new typologies or adapt existing buildings. And yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think already there's been amongst architects, there's been a lot of discussion already about change in design and existing models like the, you know, the freestanding house, and, you know, there's been a lot of discussions around, you know, what the garage becomes, and, you know, the importance of passive airflow, and turning the garage into a workspace to work from home, you know, and setting up sort of scenarios like that so we can better prepare for clients coming in with these sorts of requests. And then I think maybe we spoke about it briefly before, but the amount of empty stock in the city. Like, I live in the city, so I've just been watching by the week the amount of tenancies just vacating, and just the sheer volume of office buildings that are still under construction, which is just mind blowing. But I think, yeah, in the years to come, there'll be a lot of putting heads together, trying to figure out ways to, I guess, rejig those buildings to
we're all going to think
housing
differently. We
Yeah.
feel it already. We sense it already. And I remember
Yeah.
I was only scanning through LinkedIn this morning, and I saw a comment by one of a significant developer in Victoria, talking up office space. And whilst I can't deny him the opportunity to talk it up, because there's so much of it, there's an abundance of it, and until people can solve, if there is that problem, and I don't know that we can see it clearly today, we might have clearer glasses in 12 months' time and see that, right, well, there is this abundance of office space, and what can we do with it? And how do we get people either back in, or how do we push them out? Whatever that decision is, whatever that flow is, I guess it's really, really important. It affects so many things, doesn't it? Community spaces, outdoor spaces, shopping. I mean, shopping, goodness. We're all
Retail,
online.
gosh.
Retail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Melbourne has such a strong preface on these sort of retail precincts, which define communities and towns and people's sense of pride and where they live. And it'll just be interesting to see where that all goes when there's sort of an absence of really strong physical retail. Yeah.
What about the low cost? Let's move to the low cost housing, affordable housing. Let's community style housing. I know you've both had a bit of you've both got ideas around that. Lisa, what you started talking about that, and you've got a bit of a passion towards that. Tell us a bit about that.
I guess it really all started from that AECOM competition project, which is first instance of diving into those issues of this kind of phenomenon that, like, yes, our population's growing in Melbourne. We can't really continue to build new suburbs on the periphery of our city. I mean, we can, but we're just eating into our kind of natural habitat. And then, you know, it means more vehicle traffic and, you know, socially isolated communities. But at the same time, you know, our CBD is now kind of like overpopulated. And so it kind of leaves, there's this sort of middle ring in Melbourne, which is where a lot of the aging housing stock is, that's getting demolished anyway. And it's kind of this real opportunity to, I don't know, think anew about this sort of like medium density housing, which is kind of like the most interesting density and model for housing. And so, yeah, I guess that's a topic I'm really interested in. And yeah, I'm now working on another competition proposal, which is sort of
What's with the competitions? What's going on there? Why do you like the competitions?
They're kind of really good opportunities for young architects. Like, I think sometimes work in a practice can be quite, not tedious, but like there's just a lot of
repeat, a lot of mundane.
A lot of repetitive stuff. And
yeah,
so
okay.
I guess you're also contractually confined by what the client wants, and
sure.
you know, you don't not necessarily get the outcome you want, and so you've got that freedom in competitions to really drive things the way you want them to go and think outside of the box a bit more.
Now I'm conscious, Lisa, you may need to go, but before you go, and I'm gonna wrap up anyway because it's been great to have a chat. But before you go, so what's the future hold? I can almost picture on a building somewhere, sort of Garner and Garner. Is that going to happen one day?
We'll definitely, we'll be collaborating on something in the near future.
Yeah, I hope your boss is up watching this.
We're still figuring out the best way to collaborate because it has its ups and downs. Being twins, there can be some nasty moments and things like that, but we'll get there.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a moment. I'm not. I'm sure it's all harmony. Look, ladies, I'm going to wrap things up. I really am so delighted. I think we could talk for hours on multiple subjects, whether it's, your learning and experiences overseas, the social housing component, the affordable housing, where you see the need, where the changes are going to be. It could just go on and on. Lisa and Lauren, thank you so much for joining me on The Real Estate Story. For those that are listening, I have to confess that Lisa and Lauren are my cousin. We are cousins. Of course, I know everybody's looking right now and can see the similarity. But I'm delighted to have two cousins that have just got two great careers ahead of them. They've already forged an amazing career, and clearly it's just going to continue to forge on the right path. So thanks for joining me on The Real Estate Story.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Great to talk to you.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Enjoy the day.
You too.
The Real Estate Story brought to you by Compton Green.